For 3 years, everything seemed perfect. Their love story was the kind that fans only dream about, a football prodigy and a music icon, building a life that looked flawless from the outside. Lamine Yamal and Nicki Nicole, the golden couple everyone rooted for. But then, one day, everything ended. No warning. No explanation. Just a single post that broke the internet. Fans were shocked. Why did they break up? What really happened? Rumors spread like wildfire. Cheating, fame, distance, everyone had a theory. But no one knew the truth. Until now. Because Lamine Yamal has finally spoken. In a new interview, he revealed something that changed everything people thought they knew about their relationship. One line, one powerful confession, that flipped the entire story upside down. Was it betrayal? Pressure from fame? Or something much deeper, something no one could have imagined? Tonight, we uncover the real reason behind Lamine Yamal's shocking breakup with Nicki Nicole. And trust me, the truth will break more than just hearts. 3 years ago, the internet fell in love with them. Lamine Yamal, the young football sensation who had already become a global name before he turned 20, and Nicki Nicole, the Argentine pop star whose voice ruled charts and hearts alike. Their worlds couldn't have been more different, one born on the field under blinding stadium lights, the other under the soft glow of stage spotlights. And yet, when they met, it felt like destiny had planned it all. Their first public appearance together came at an award ceremony. Lamine, shy but smiling, walked hand in hand with Nicki, who looked at him the way people look at the future, full of hope and certainty. Cameras flashed, headlines bloomed, and just like that, a new power couple was born. Fans adored them. Every small gesture, a glance during interviews, a shared joke on live streams, a photo from a quiet vacation, turned into moments the internet couldn't stop talking about. But behind the smiles, there was a story still being written, one that would end far differently than anyone expected. At first, everything was effortless. Lamine often said Nicki grounded him, that she made him forget the pressure of being the next big thing. He would fly across countries just to attend her concerts, and she, in return, would be there at his matches, cheering him on like the world didn't exist beyond that pitch. For fans, it was the perfect story. Fame, love, youth, all rolled into one fairytale. But fairytales don't last forever. As time went by, the differences they once found charming began to weigh on them. Lamine's career was exploding. Sponsorships, interviews, global tours, the spotlight was blinding. Nicki, too, was growing bigger, taking on projects that demanded her time and focus. The distance between their worlds began to grow, one flight, one missed call, one silent night at a time. Sources close to the couple later hinted that communication had become a problem. They loved each other, one insider said, but love doesn't always mean understanding. There were moments when Lamine would come home exhausted, looking for quiet, while Nicki's world was still buzzing with energy and people. Their schedules didn't just clash, their needs did. And yet, even when the cracks began to show, they held on. They still posted together, still smiled for the cameras, still tried to convince the world, and maybe themselves, that nothing had changed. But those who looked closely could see it. The spaces between their smiles had grown wider. Lamine once said in an old interview, "Nicki doesn't see me as a footballer. She sees me as a person. That's why I love her." Ironically, that line became haunting later, when fans began noticing that the very thing that once connected them, seeing beyond fame, was starting to fade. The world saw them as Lamine Yamal and Nicki Nicole, two stars in their own galaxies, but somewhere along the line, they stopped seeing each other clearly. There were whispers about disagreements, small at first, then louder. Some said it was about career priorities, others believed it was about trust. But one thing remained constant: neither spoke publicly. Their silence made the rumors grow even louder. Then came the first sign. A missing tag in an Instagram story. A photo deleted. A follow quietly undone. Fans noticed immediately. The internet buzzed with speculation. Maybe it was just a fight. Maybe they were taking a break. But those who knew them knew this wasn't just a fight. Something deeper was breaking. Even when they appeared together at a charity event months later, the difference was visible. The smiles were there, but not the warmth. The comfort had turned into caution. It was as if both were holding on, but only because letting go would mean admitting that everything they built was slipping away. And in those small, silent moments, the kind that never make it to social media, the real story began to unfold. Because while the world thought it was distance that drove them apart, there was something much heavier waiting underneath. Something Lamine would only reveal much later, when he decided to speak up after all the noise had died down. For now, though, no one knew the storm that was brewing behind the perfect pictures and rehearsed smiles. They were still the dream couple on screen, but off camera, the truth was quietly rewriting their story. And if anyone had looked closely enough back then, they might have seen it too, the small shadows behind the light, the unspoken words between their glances. Because even in love stories that look perfect, there's always one moment, one decision, that changes everything. It started with a message, one that was never meant to be seen. Lamine had been in training all week, exhausted but excited to finally have a quiet evening with Nicki. She had just come back from a music festival in Miami, where her performance had gone viral. But when he entered the apartment that night, something felt different. The lights were on, her perfume still lingered in the air, yet the silence felt heavy, almost rehearsed. Her phone was on the couch, screen glowing faintly with notifications. He wasn't the kind to check, but this time, the preview flashed a name he didn't recognize, a musician she had recently collaborated with. The message was short, "Last night was unforgettable. Wish you were still here." He froze. When Nicki walked in, she smiled, unaware of what he'd seen. "Hey, you're home early," she said softly, taking off her jacket. But Lamine's eyes didn't move from the phone. "Who's Alex?" he asked quietly. Her face changed. Not guilt, more like fear of what he might already know. "He's just a friend. From the show. You're overthinking it." But he wasn't. The tone, the timing, it all felt wrong. He handed her the phone, not out of anger, but disbelief. "Tell me this means nothing," he said, voice trembling. Nicki sighed, frustration mixing with shame. "Lamine, it's not what you think. We were out with friends, we had a drink, and he sent a stupid message. I didn't even reply." He wanted to believe her, he really did. But the silence that followed said more than any explanation could. The trust that had once been effortless now felt forced. Days turned into weeks. They barely spoke. Publicly, they still looked united. Photos, smiles, even a joint interview where Nicki called him my forever person. But behind those practiced smiles, everything was cracking. Then came the leaked audio. A fan account posted a short clip of Nicki on a late-night call. The voice was muffled, but recognizable. She said something that went viral in minutes: "He doesn't understand what it's like to live for art. All he cares about is control." Lamine didn't respond publicly, but those close to him said he was shattered. The clip spread everywhere, on TikTok edits, football meme pages, even sports networks that usually stayed away from gossip. The boy who had once been known for his calmness was suddenly trending for all the wrong reasons. In private, he confronted her one last time. "I gave up everything to make this work," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "Every headline, every rumor, I defended you. But I can't fight you too." Nicki's eyes filled with tears. "You think I betrayed you. But you stopped listening a long time ago." The argument that followed wasn't loud, it was quiet, tired, full of words that hurt because they were true. He said he couldn't trust her anymore. She said he never really saw her beyond his own shadow. There were no plates thrown, no shouting, just two people realizing they'd already lost something they couldn't fix. That night, Lamine packed a small bag and left. No goodbye, no statement, just silence. The next morning, fans noticed he had deleted their pictures together. Nicki posted a black heart emoji on her story, and within hours, the internet was on fire. Reporters speculated. Some said it was a publicity stunt. Others claimed it was about fame and jealousy. But no one knew about that one message, that one conversation that broke it all. Weeks later, in an interview that would go viral within minutes, Lamine was asked what really happened. He paused for a long time, then said quietly, "Love doesn't end in one day. It ends in 100 small moments you try to ignore. And when you finally open your eyes, it's already gone." It wasn't a confession, nor an accusation, just the truth. The real story wasn't about cheating or fame. It was about two people who loved each other deeply but couldn't survive the weight of the world watching them. And by the time they realized it, they were already standing on opposite sides of the same dream, too far to reach out anymore. The silence after the breakup was louder than any scandal. For weeks, both Lamine and Nicki avoided speaking publicly, but the world around them refused to stay quiet. Hashtags like #LamineNickiSplit and #WhatReallyHappened trended across platforms. Fan edits flooded TikTok, slow-motion clips of them smiling, laughing, holding hands, set to sad music and captions like "they looked so in love." For Lamine, the quiet was unbearable. Every time he opened his phone, he saw their story being rewritten by strangers. People guessed, accused, sympathized. Some blamed Nicki for the leaked messages, others painted Lamine as cold and controlling. The truth was more complicated than any of them could imagine. At night, he replayed their last conversation in his head, each word sharper than before. The pain wasn't just losing her, it was losing the version of himself he was when she loved him. The calm, patient boy who believed love could fix everything. Now, even in the middle of roaring stadiums, he felt alone. Every cheer sounded distant. Every win felt hollow. Nicki wasn't doing better. During a live performance in Buenos Aires, she broke down mid-song. The crowd sang the rest for her, their voices echoing through the arena. Later, fans noticed tears in her eyes when she whispered into the mic, "Sometimes, love just runs out of air." That one line sparked 1,000 theories. Clips of her crying spread instantly. Some fans comforted her, others accused her of using heartbreak for publicity. But those who looked closely saw the exhaustion behind her smile, the way her hands trembled when she said his name. Behind the screens, both were fighting their own battles. For Lamine, it was the interview that broke the wall. Sitting across from a journalist, he looked different, tired, distant, older. The interviewer asked carefully, "Lamine, the world still talks about what happened. Do you want to set the record straight?" He took a deep breath, his eyes fixed on the table. "People think there was betrayal," he said quietly. "But sometimes the betrayal isn't cheating, it's pretending everything's fine when it isn't." He looked up then, his voice steady but heavy. "We were trying to save something that had already ended." That clip went viral instantly. Fans dissected every word, every pause. Some called it heartbreaking honesty, others thought it was a subtle dig at Nicki. But for the first time, the world saw the truth behind the headlines. Not scandal, but pain. Nicki responded days later through her music. She dropped a surprise single, a slow, haunting ballad. The lyrics weren't direct, but everyone knew. "You loved me like sunlight, but I lived in the rain. You wanted forever, I only had today." Her voice cracked on the last line, and that was enough. People cried. The internet went silent for a moment, as if collectively exhaling the weight of their story. Meanwhile, reporters uncovered details about the months before the breakup. Missed birthdays, cancelled plans, long gaps between seeing each other. The real truth wasn't a single event or one mistake. It was years of love quietly breaking under pressure, of two people growing faster than their relationship could handle. In one of his last public statements about her, Lamine said something that felt like closure. "She taught me what love is," he said. "And sometimes, that's enough. You don't have to end together to be grateful." The words lingered long after the cameras stopped rolling. Months passed. They moved on with their lives, Lamine back to the pitch, Nicki back to her tours, but traces of each other remained everywhere. In songs, interviews, in the way fans still paired their names. And though the world kept asking for the real reason, maybe this was it all along, not betrayal, not fame, but two people chasing their dreams in opposite directions until love simply couldn't keep up. Even now, when their old photos resurface, the comments are always the same: they were perfect. Maybe they were, just not forever. In the end, their story wasn't about fame, betrayal, or who was right and who was wrong. It was about two people who once looked at each other and saw the whole world, until that world grew too heavy to hold. Behind the headlines, beyond the rumors, there were real hearts breaking in silence, far away from the noise of cameras and comment sections. Lamine and Nicki were never villains in each other's stories. They were just human, young, overwhelmed, trying to balance love and ambition while millions watched. And maybe that's the part we forget most easily, that behind every viral breakup, there are sleepless nights, unread messages, and moments no one ever sees. So before we judge, before we comment, before we turn someone's pain into entertainment, maybe we should pause. Because the internet moves on fast, but the people at the center of it all, they don't. They have to live with the pieces long after the world stops caring. Love isn't always about forever. Sometimes, it's about what it teaches you before it ends. And maybe that's what Lamine meant when he said, "The truth gets heavy." Because sometimes the truth isn't about what was lost, it's about what it cost. And if you've ever loved someone so deeply that you forgot where you ended and they began, you already know how this story feels. Let their story remind us that real lives exist behind the screens we scroll through. That empathy is still the rarest form of humanity. Because in the end, every story fades, but the ache of love that almost lasted, that stays forever.